This presentation is given on behalf of Chris Green, a past fellow at the Museum of English Rural Life. Thank you for watching this. I'm Chris Green, and since 2011, I've been retired and independent. Before that, I was director of St Albans Museums and oversaw the tools collection there. Since the end of 2013, I have worked on a dictionary of farm hand tools and contrivances using MERL's collection and was the Gwyn E. Jones Fellow in 2014. I must quickly add that I haven't been working full-time since then, and I only started writing in 2016. Completion is much to be desired, as is a publisher. Anyone listening? The idea was to follow the work of Raphael Salomon, who produced definitive dictionaries of woodworking tools in 1975 and leatherworking tools in 1986, but died before he could get on to his great love, the farm tools. The result is, even today, if you want to know about old farm tools, then bad luck, albeit they were used every day by most people in England before 1800. 1.7 million of them in 1871 and 1 million before World War I. Roy Brigden's Shire albums cover the ground and are obtainable from MERL. Roy Brigden was a past keeper at the MERL. But if you're looking for something of substance, then you'll get Fussell's The Farmer's Tools, 1950. And as you will see, they are the farmers rather than the farmhands. And so we follow ploughs and bean drills through the ages on their relentless advance to the present day, when most English farmland has been drained and is accessible by 4x4 or quad bike. One man can now farm 1,000 acres in southeast England, and very often does. Rather than a simple dictionary in which hay rick follows hay fork and precedes hay truss, I have now gone back to the farming process pattern, in which we start with breaking the land. A Saxon example is here, circa 1025. And we finish with the harvest and the processing of grain to follow. What have I learnt or confirmed at MERL? Firstly, that most old hand tools were of wood, light, strong, readily obtained, tipped with as little iron or steel as the job required, to withstand the silica in soil or to provide a cutting edge. Before about 1870, the labourer could rehandle a tool by knocking out the nail, cutting a new length of willow, hazel or blackthorn in a hedgerow or on the edge of a wood and refitting. Very few tools can be dated before 1800, simply because the price of scrap iron was so high before the 1870s, and labourers were so poor they had to burn tree roots in the fire. So a worn-out tool made a good glaze, and the iron part could go back to the blacksmith next morning for credit. The price of iron never ceases to surprise. Archaeologists normally forget this and are surprised that so few iron tools are found on sites of the 6th or 7th century, before the Roman Iron Age. Techniques of the body, to use Marcel Mauss's phrase, are important. Why do Brits and Americans use spades when most of the rest of the world uses digging hoes? Sometimes the difference has been little more than where a tool maker has placed the handle in relation to the blade. In other cases, we can record ingenious use of a tool to lighten the work. There is little evidence to show how tools were made and how they reached individual labourers. On the whole, the worker kept the tool, that it belonged to the farm and might be recalled. Witness marks should be carefully looked for on older tools. On the handle of this sieve, which would be accounted a homemade one-off if there were not a picture of one in the Illustrated London News for 1846, can be found the marks of a rounding plane. A specialist tool often used for scythe handles, since its diameter can be altered and the workpiece need not be straight. But at MERL, it is most persuasively seen on a straight rake handles. A specialist tool maker was involved even when adding a forked ash bow to a tool. So the grandfather made all his own tools story is disproved yet again. Even objects which appear well within anyone's capabilities usually demonstrate a visit to the professional, or were simply bought ready-made from him. Yorkshire hay creels for carrying hay on the back or on horseback are very simple constructions, yet the maker was photographed at work in the 1960s. New tool types have appeared. MERL proves to have two rare wooden forks which glory in the name of yelves and were used to carry or lift muck. A yelve is first seen in a comic engraving circa 1520 by a South German, Hans Weiditz, and is carried by a gross peasant with a goiter, a plate, spoon, and wine gourd to show his appetite, and a matching wife. The larger of MERL's forks, made in Northumberland in the 19th century, is very similar. Randall Holmes' Book of Heraldry and the Oxford Dictionary tell us what they were called, and Samuel Palmer drew another, similar to MERL's smaller example, in a barn at Shoreham, Kent, around 1825. And finally, sources. I have tried to be Catholic, and often this is the only way to go. One school of thought says that English practice was driven to the Celtic fringe, i.e. the Highlands of Scotland, to Wales and to Cornwall. Cornwall, not Sussex, is certainly where to find out about the practice of paring and burning, though now probably beyond living memory, despite the fact that in the 17th century you could probably have found it in both counties. MERL's yelves come from Scotland and Northumberland, but may not have been made there. There is also the small consideration that Scots historians and the staff at St Fagans in Cardiff do not ignore their agricultural past, as English historians have. And we should not be afraid to look abroad when necessary. The English could not or would not draw themselves before about 1725. But Peter Bruegel the Elder made this magnificent drawing of scythemen around 1560 in Flanders, and it would be foolish to ignore the straight scythe handles and the strickles they used to sharpen the scythes, exactly as we find them in England, and the earliest known representation, not to mention all the people on the right carrying loads on their heads. Back to Britain for an end piece. Thomas Bewick, around 1800, engraved a Northumberland man sheltering from near horizontal snow in the lee of a haystack. If we look carefully, the stack is about an inch across in the engraving. We can see that he also provides the silhouette of the first recorded hay spade, an edge tool for cutting bales, and redundant by 1870. Thank you.